Talk boxing news.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with the unification match in the women's flyweight division, the bout between then-champion Gabriela Alaniz and Marlen Esparza. And I told you,
This fight's in Texas.
Marlen Esparza just so happens to be a native Texan.
While Gabriela Alaniz is the noticeably stronger and busier fighter of the two, the stronger puncher, short of a knockout, she don't win on points. She won't win a decision.
Let's talk about what we saw. In the first round, both fighters, both champions, shot out of their corners like a bat out of hell, meeting each other in the center of the ring. And I gave that round to Gabriela Alaniz, who seemed better in the exchange, stronger and busier, much busier than Marlen Esparza. Good right hands from Alaniz with Esparza on the back foot. Very fast start to the fight.
The prevailing aesthetic of the match was that Gabriela was busy.
Busier than Marlen. I gave Gabriela the first round. I gave Gabriela the second round. Better in the exchange, stronger combinations, busier overall in the round, forcing Marlen Esparza onto her back foot. Gave her the first round, the second round, the third round. Alaniz got off to a fast start per usual, pushed the pace, landed good jabs and good right hands. Esparza still on the back foot, circling and trying to work off the counter, though not being effective.
She had more success with her counter-punching in the fourth round. Marlen Esparza showed good countering, cleaner punches.
I gave Marlen Esparza the fourth round. On my card, that was the first round that Marlen picked up in this fight. The first three rounds, at least for me, were so obviously Gabriela Alaniz rounds.
Marlen Esparza picking up the fourth, though not without some wear and tear. She suffered a cut to her left eye in the fourth round.
Gabriela Alaniz picked up the fifth behind strong combinations, backing off Esparza. Once again, Alaniz still very aggressive and very busy.
And that was the prevailing aesthetic, which is what made this fight such a tight fight, that even if there were some rounds you could have given to Marlen, Gabriela was still the noticeably busy fighter, busier puncher.
Busier overall, that at no point in the fight was Marlen the one backing Gabriela Alaniz into the ropes. At no point was it Marlen backing off Gabriela. Most of the time she was just fighting her off. Even in rounds where she won, she was still the fighter giving up ground and creating space.
On paper, the fight was a tale of two halves, at least for me. On paper, Gabriela Alaniz won 4 out of the first 5 rounds,
with Marlen Esparza, at least on my card, winning 4 out of 5 in the second half, the last half of the fight. The difference being that what you got from Gabriela was consistent throughout the entirety of the fight. Throughout the whole fight, Gabriela was coming forward, throwing punches and bunches, and she wouldn't lay off.
she was consistent.
It started working for Marlen Esparza in the second half of the fight as opposed to what she was doing in the first. In the first half of the fight, she was trying to catch and counter in the pocket.
It was in the first half.
Whereas in the second half, she started creating space to walk Gabriela Alaniz into punches, into shots, angling off.
The countering.
It seemed very much counterintuitive for Marlen in the first half of this fight to shoot out of her corner, attempting to meet Gabriela Alaniz in the center of the ring when she doesn't have the firepower to put a dent in this fighter. Marlen Esparza is a good boxer, but she's no knockout merchant.
She couldn't slow Gabriela Alaniz down, even in rounds where she was winning.
In the second half of the fight, you see Marlen Esparza make a slight adjustment. I gave Marlen round 6, behind great counters, upper body movement, and making Alaniz miss a lot of punches, a lot of shots. Good round for Marlen.
Good counters, she was more accurate.
Gave Marlen round 6, I gave Marlen round 7, creating space, walking Alaniz into jabs and counter right hands, circling away, creating space, and being more accurate. Round 6, 7, and 8.
I gave them Marlen.
Boxing in circles and throwing counter shots, clean punches, and angling the torso off the line after shooting her shots, after throwing her punches. Good counter right hands and left hooks in the pocket, though Alaniz was still aggressive and showing no signs of fatigue.
Even though I scored that round for Marlen. Round 9.
Yet another round I gave to Marlen Esparza for showing good movement, good counters, and while Alaniz was still busier, she wasn't as accurate.
Saw some good body punching towards the end of that round from Marlen Esparza with the 10th round.
Gave round 10 to Gabriela Alaniz for being busier and noticeably overpowering Marlen Esparza in the pocket, crowding her and throwing combinations. Good right uppercuts, while Esparza was visibly tired and the pace had finally started to set in. Alaniz still very explosive in the 10th and final round.
I had it a draw.
I had it 5 rounds to 5, tie score.
I believe that here today, Gabriela Alaniz should still be a champion, but my prediction was Marlen Esparza on points. Marlen by hook or by crook, because this is a fighter who in previous instances has gotten favorable decisions.
Every champion that Marlon has fought so far, Naoko Fujioka and Beth Zamora Silva, these champions can't seem to get a fair shake on the cards.
I anticipated that it wouldn't be any different with Gabriela Alaniz, that short of a knockout, Gabriela won't win on points. And if it's tight enough, if it's close enough that you could score it the other way, that's what the judges will do.
Even more egregious is that one of the judges, Javier Alvarez, had this fight 9 rounds to 1 in favor of Marlon Esparza. 9.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. Not at all an accurate reflection of the contest. You might have been able to have Marlon winning by a point. No more than a point.
But 9 rounds to 1? Did you fill your card out in the parking lot?
It's just not an accurate reflection of the contest I saw. I saw 5 rounds to 5 tie score, 1 swing round. And maybe you could swing it to Marlon, but you could just as easily swing it to Gabriela Alaniz,
who for me and my money was the more consistent fighter throughout. She was the more consistently aggressive and busy fighter of the two.
Never slowed down, never laid off.
Look, I'm sorry to say that anybody that fights Marlon Esparza in the state of Texas, they're not going to get a fair shake.
This was a fight that if it took place anywhere else, Gabriela could have won on activity, especially if it were in Gabriela's neck of the woods instead of Marlen's, or if Gabriela were the Golden Boy fighter instead of Marlen. This was a fight that Gabriela could have easily won on activity alone.
But I banked on controversy.
I banked on Marlon Esparza receiving yet another favorable decision against another champion, because that's the established pattern here.
So the prediction stuck.
Then move over to the Showtime card, the Showtime main event, the welterweight contest, the IBF final eliminator between Jaron Boots Ennis and Roman Villa. And as I stated in the build-up leading up to the fight, I stated, Jaron Boots Ennis will go back to looking like a wrecking machine opposite the ring Roman Villa, a mid-range to inside pressure fighter who was unable to keep Jaron Ennis under pressure. That this performance would be a far cry
from the Chukatsian fight,
because Karen Chukatsian and Roman Villa are polar opposites, where Karen Chukatsian is a completely defensively minded fighter. Roman Villa is a completely offensively minded fighter.
One guy's trying to spend the whole night playing keep away, and the other guy, he won't be hard to find.
Not for Jaron Boots Ennis, who started off yesterday's fight with the jab in the straight in the first round, showing great movement.
Shot selection.
Jab in the straight upstairs with a periodic stab to the body downstairs. You saw throughout the entirety of this fight that Jaron Boots Ennis, while getting off heavy shots upstairs, heavy leather, he didn't abandon the body either.
Regularly taking a stab to the body, a stab down the middle.
Breaking through Roman Villa's very tight, high guard. Roman Villa, protecting his face, left his midsection open, thereby enabling Jaron to regularly go there. I think in the first round, Roman Villa got a taste of Jaron Boots Ennis' power and thereby understood he's in there with a heavy puncher.
He didn't really open up until the third round.
Start trying for shots, trying to apply pressure. Roman Villa being a pressure fighter and pressure fighters staying in character.
Trying to.
It became evident in the first 2 rounds that Jaron Boots Ennis' speed, power, movement, and shot selection was disarming Roman Villa, that Roman was giving him a lot of respect, more respect than he gave Rashidi Ellis the fight before. There's a reason for that.
Rashidi Ellis is a pure boxer.
Jaron Ennis is a boxer-puncher with a glaring difference between the two base styles. A fighter like Rashidi Ellis, he's not going to land with much authority because he's fighting on the balls of his feet, staying on his toes, sticking and moving and trying to stay on the outside, whereas a Jaron Boots Ennis, a boxer-puncher, he's likelier to step into his jab, sit on his punches, and land with authority.
Get some respect.
Rashidi Ellis never got Roman Villa's respect. Even if he won many of the early rounds in their fight, sticking and moving and staying behind his jab, straight punches from the outside on the fly, he never got Roman Villa's respect. He never really landed with authority. So eventually, the pressure got to him, whereas Jaron Boots Ennis, he got respect early.
Landing with authority.
Boxer punchers often do opposite the ring pressure fighters because they have the luxury of toggling between offense and defense, that happy medium and a good balance of the two. That's what gives boxer punchers like Jaron Boots Ennis a stylistic advantage over pressure fighters.
Pressure fighters only have one way of fighting a fight, and that's applying pressure. That pressure can cause a pure boxer to come apart at the seams. But opposite the ring, a boxer puncher.
Opposite the ring, a Jaron Boots Ennis, that's exactly what they need because their opponent isn't hard to find. They can use their aggression against them. That's what Jaron Boots Ennis did. Jaron won every round.
Deconstructing Roman Villa, who's a tough guy.
He's a tough fucking guy. He took a lot of hard shots, took a lot of hard punches, and he didn't want to stay down.
But I didn't have Roman Villa winning a single round in this fight. Not a single round.
He was beaten from the inside out by Jaron Boots Ennis, who showed both good offensive highlights and defensive highlights. Slipping, bobbing, and weaving, getting under and or around Roman Villa's short hooks mid-range to inside, and countering in kind. That was in the pocket, outside of the pocket.
Straight punches from the outside coming in. The jab and the straight upstairs or the stab downstairs.
The stab to the body.
It was a 10-round domination for what otherwise is a durable fighter who can be a handful.
Yesterday's Roman Villa was a far cry from the Roman Villa we saw deconstruct Rashidi Ellis, wear him down, break him down.
He got worn down. He got broken down by Jaron Boots Ennis, who beat him from every angle of the ring in every way you can imagine.
Stopping him in the 10th was just the cherry on top in a fight that Roman Villa was so clearly losing. Moments in this thing, I figured they shouldn't even send him out for the next round. He's just going to get
plastered.
Roman Villa's best bet to win this fight would be applying pressure and getting mid-range to inside on Jaron Boots Ennis. The problem is that Jaron Boots Ennis wasn't squirrely in the pocket. He wasn't squirrely at that range. He proved to be the better inside fighter than the inside fighter.
Shorter, more compact punches, faster, stronger.
In the pocket, outside of the pocket, better maneuvering, better feet, better angles, better everything. Jaron Boots Ennis completely outclassed Roman Villa. And I want to say that given what Roman did to Rashidi Ellis...
It's not that Roman Villa is a bad fighter or that he's not a dangerous fighter. He's all those things. But Jaron Boots Ennis, he just had the right ingredients. For this assignment, he did.
I think that Roman Villa, alongside Custio Clayton, who Jaron Ennis stopped in, what was it, 2 rounds? Those are the 2 best scalps that he's collected so far. Good scalps.
And it's hard to make the case that anybody in today's welterweight division, outside of the top 2 guys, outside of Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford, outside of those 2 guys, it's hard to make the case that anybody beats Jaron Ennis.
Anybody else. I mean, with Virgil Ortiz having succumbed to his health issues and subsequently having to move up in weight if he even comes back.
That was Boots' biggest competition, Virgil Ortiz. Now, he's gone.
He's out. Winner of Spence versus Crawford, whoever it is, they'll likely move up in weight. They'll likely leave the welterweight division. There's a strong argument that Jaron Boots Ennis could very well be the heir apparent to the men's welterweight division. Because you tell me who you think beats this guy.
Showtime needs to get him out again. Get him out before this year is out.
This guy's got a fan-friendly style with some high-level ring savvy, high-level ring IQ. And I'd like to see him in action again. There's plenty of time left in this year to get him another fight.
Do it!
It just so happens that the bout between Virgil Ortiz and Eimantas Stanionis is not going to be rescheduled. WBA President Gilberto Mendoza revealed for the WBA regular welterweight world title, that fight's not going to go down. Obviously, because Virgil Ortiz, he's going to move up. He can't make welterweight healthy anymore.
Stanionis is going to remain the WBA's mandatory challenger for the winner of Spence versus Crawford.
Stanionis, like Jaron Boots Ennis, is not a PBC fighter. Some people may be under the misapprehension that because he's fought on PBC shows, he's one of Heyman's boys. He's one of Heyman's fighters, when in all actuality,
he's not.
He's now managed by Shelley Finkel, and in some ways, he's a promotional free agent, able to go wherever he has to go for fights. Up until recently, he was a Probellum fighter, but Probellum, as you all may know, has since gone under. It's defunct.
He can go back to Showtime.
Jaron Ennis wants him to. Jaron Ennis says he'll take that fight with Eimantas Stanionis in a heartbeat. Now, you have to consider that Jaron Ennis is in position to fight for a title by way of the IBF, and Eimantas Stanionis is in position by way of the WBA. Stanionis hasn't fought since the Radzov Butayev fight of last year, over a year ago, on the undercard of Spence versus Lugas.
So get him a keep busy fight before this summer is out, then schedule another fight between him and Boots.
Maybe you get him a fight at the end of August or the beginning of September, then have him get back out there one more time in, say, December, opposite the ring, Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron, who says, I'll take Stanionis. Virgil fell out, so I'll take Stanionis in a heartbeat. I want to get into the ring one more time before the end of the year to make it 3. Stanionis, Keith Thurman, Ugas, Ugas, Bud, Spence. All the top guys out there. Let's make these fights happen.
Some of these fights are more realistic than others. I'm completely ruling out the winner of Spence versus Crawford because the winner of that fight is likely to move to junior middle. Comes to Ugas and Thurman.
I don't think Keith Thurman would take this fight if he beats Yordenis Ugas, but if Ugas wins, he might.
He could.
Eimantas Stanionis would. Eimantas Stanionis, who hasn't seen action in a while, I think he deserves a keep busy fight ahead of what could be the most difficult fight of his career opposite the ring, Jaron Boots Ennis. A fight that you could bill as a dual mandatory. We've seen that before.
Saw it at 122.
One of Stephen Fulton's mandatory challengers was made a dual mandatory by way of both the WBC and the WBO. I don't see why the WBA and the IBF can't negotiate a similar situation to where the winner of a Boots versus Stanionis fight,
Whoever wins, let them be the dual mandatory for both the IBF and WBA titles. Kill two birds with one stone.
the welterweight division needs this level of excitement, fresh new faces and new blood to make waves at the weight. Even if Boots Ennis can't get the winner of Spence versus Crawford in the ring,
I don't think he will.
Boots versus Stanionis is a damn good fight. It's a damn good fight. Stanionis, having been out so long, I think he's deserving of a warm-up fight, a little tune-up, tick-over fight to get him ready because he hasn't fought in a long while.
He deserves that.
Showtime should do whatever they have to do to feed him to Jaron Boots Ennis, who they are so invested in. It would benefit Jaron Boots Ennis and the platform if he's able to squeeze in another fight, another meaningful fight before the end of this year. They want to make him a star. They need to keep him busy.
Spare all the clout chasing from Bozy Ennis, Jaron Ennis' father. The most effective way to sell this fighter is to sell his fights.
Not name-dropping fighters in interviews, not all of that stuff we saw the last couple of weeks and the last couple of months. All you're gonna do with that is get him bad press, and he doesn't need that. What he does need is activity, more showcase fights, more showings, more ways to leave an impression on the boxing community at large. He can do that with Eimantas Stanionis.
The reset button is set to be hit in the men's welterweight division, and a new face needs to emerge as the heir apparent, the authority at that weight beyond the Crawford versus Spence fight.
It can be Boots. It can easily be Boots. He can be the guy that takes over 147 and creates excitement for that division. I know of no issues that Jaron Boots Ennis is having making welterweight, unlike Virgil Ortiz, so he can do some damage here.
Be there for a while.
My suggestion that the winner of a potential Boots versus Stanionis fight become the dual mandatory for both the IBF and the WBA is so that we can see some consolidation.
At welter.
Should all the titles go vacant, the winner of Thurman versus Ugas is in line by way of the WBC. Alexis Rocha of Golden Boy Promotions, he's in line by way of the WBO.
So let the winner of a Stanionis versus Boots fight be in line by way of both the IBF and the WBA. I don't see why not.
Let's not make things hard for these guys and make this process longer and more arduous.
More difficult than it has to be. I hope they can make that fight.
See if they do.